Good evening, it's Tuesday the 26th of August and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Diplomacy focus. Lee and Trump meet at White House, emphasizing resumption of talks with North Korea to stabilize peninsula. Military deployment. Venezuela mobilizes 15,000 soldiers to strengthen security along Colombia border. Animal fun. Hundreds of corgis compete in Lithuania's international race, drawing thousands of spectators.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Selena Jayathilarka.
Good evening once again. At the White House, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met US President Donald Trump to discuss revitalizing North Korea diplomacy and strengthening bilateral ties. They agreed on economic collaboration, including South Korean shipbuilding investment in the US, and emphasized resuming talks with Kim Jong-un, with Trump expressing hope for a meeting later this year.
The meeting placed strong emphasis on North Korea, with both leaders signaling openness to renewed talks. Lee appealed to Trump's personal ties with Kim Jong-un, calling on him to act as a peacemaker. Experts warned that relying on personalities over structured diplomacy. Economically, Trump highlighted plans to revive U.S. shipping building with South Korean cooperation, while Lee pushed to broaden the alliance into science and technology. Seoul sees opportunities in shipbuilding and innovation through labor and political challenge could complicate implementation. Both leaders stressed a future-oriented partnership beyond security ties. Defense matters also surfaced, with Trump raising the sensitive issue of U.S. ownership of land used for military base in Korea. Though trade in agriculture and livestock was not discussed, both sides hinted at adjustments to their framework trade deal. Analysts note the cordial tone masks potential challenges on burden sharing and market access.
An Israeli airstrike on Gaza's Nasser hospital killed at least 20 people, including 5 journalists. The World Health Organization condemned the attack, urging an immediate ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu called it a tragic mishap and ordered an investigation.
Israel launched a deadly airstrike on a hospital in Gaza, killing and injuring dozens, including journalists and rescue workers. According to Gaza's health ministry, Israel first struck the Nasser hospital in the south of the Gaza Strip on Monday morning, which was followed by a second strike as rescue teams rushed to evacuate the wounded. At least 20 people were killed and many more were wounded. Among the dead are 5 journalists. The Gaza health ministry condemned what it called a heinous crime, adding that these strikes disrupted surgeries and stripped patients of their right to treatment. The World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus appealed for an immediate ceasefire, warning that Gaza's already limited medical services are being devastated by repeated attacks. The Foreign Press Association also denounced the airstrikes, saying they came without warning, while accusing Israel of killing the journalists. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed regret, calling it a tragic mishap. He insisted Israel's war is aimed at Hamas, not civilians, and promised a full investigation. Gaza's health ministry says more than 62,000 people have been killed and over 158,000 injured since the conflict began. It also claims that hunger and malnutrition have killed at least 300 people.
Pakistan has evacuated at least 150,000 people from its eastern Punjab province following a warning from India about the release of excess water from dams amid intense rainfall and regional flooding. The rivers originating from India are experiencing medium to high flooding levels and pose a serious threat to Pakistan's agricultural heartland, which produces much of the nation's food.
The evacuation efforts focus on hundreds of riverside villages in Punjab, a region crucial to Pakistan's agricultural output. The release of excess water from Indian dams, such as the Madhupur Dam, has exacerbated the flooding, threatening crops and infrastructure. Pakistan's National Disaster Management Authority has urged residents to stay away from rivers, streams and low-lying areas and to follow alerts issued through various channels. The situation is further complicated by the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty by India, following a deadly attack in Kashmir. Pakistan criticized India for not following treaty protocols, while India described the warning as a humanitarian gesture. The diplomatic tension adds a layer of complexity to the already dire humanitarian crisis. The ongoing monsoon rains and glacial melt have already caused significant damage across Pakistan, with hundreds of deaths reported. The current flooding in Punjab threatens to worsen the situation, potentially displacing more people and causing extensive damage to farmland, which is vital for the country's food security.
Australia has expelled Iran's ambassador and 3 officials, citing Tehran's involvement in 2 anti-Semitic arson attacks in Sydney in Melbourne. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese stated that intelligence from the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation confirmed Iran directed these attacks. Australia also suspended its embassy operations in Tehran.
2 attacks, 2 Australian cities, 1 source, Iran.
These were extraordinary and dangerous acts of aggression orchestrated by a foreign nation on Australian soil.
ASIO determining 2 attacks that tore at the heart of Australia's Jewish community last year were directed by the Iranian regime. The arson attack on a Bondi kosher cafe last October and the firebombing of the Adass synagogue in Ripponlea 2 months later.
Iran and its proxies literally and figuratively lit the matches and fanned the flames.
It's true that no one was injured in these attacks. It is not true that no one was harmed. Simply, Australia was attacked and Australia was harmed.
Australia set to declare Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps a terror organisation, Iran's ambassador and 3 others, given 7 days to leave the country.
We have declared Iran's ambassador to Australia persona non grata.
We are entirely united behind the measures announced today.
The motivation for the attacks, ASIO says, fracturing Australian society and isolating Jewish Australians.
There will be great anxiety that we have been targeted in such a callous and calculated way by a ruthless and violent foreign force because of who we are.
Any attack on our social cohesion is an attack on Australia.
The Greens choosing this moment to call for another expulsion.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. Venezuela is deploying 15,000 troops to its western border with Colombia, focusing on the states of Zulia and Táchira. The operation aims to combat criminal groups and enhance border security. This move follows heightened tensions, including increased U.S. pressure and military deployments in the region.
Venezuela has announced the deployment of 15,000 soldiers to its border with Colombia, primarily in Zulia and Táchira states. Authorities say the measure aims to curb the activities of criminal groups, including smugglers and paramilitary factions, which have long exploited porous border areas. The military presence will include land, air and river patrols. The move comes amid rising tensions in the region. In recent months, Colombia has increased its own security operations along the border, and the United States has expressed concerns about Venezuela's military buildup. Analysts say the troop deployment could further strain relations between Caracas and Bogota, complicating ongoing diplomatic efforts to stabilize the frontier. Beyond security concerns, Venezuela frames the operation as part of a broader strategy to assert sovereignty and protect local communities from cross-border crime. Local officials have reported that some towns near the border have already experienced a decline in illegal activity since initial troop movements. However, human rights organizations warn that the increased military presence may also affect civilians, restricting movement and daily life.
Peru has closed over 100 ports along its coastline after powerful waves struck yesterday. The South Pacific anticyclone is blamed for the extreme conditions. Tragically, a Peruvian Navy technician lost his life during rescue operations. Authorities warn that conditions are expected to persist until tomorrow.
Peru's National Meteorology and Hydrology Service reported yesterday that anomalous waves attributed to the South Pacific anticyclone battered the nation's coastline. This phenomenon led to the closure of over 100 ports, disrupting maritime activities and prompting authorities to issue safety advisories for coastal regions. The Peruvian Navy confirmed the death of second technician Roberto Carlos Telobanzas, who tragically fell into the sea while securing vessels off the coast of San Jose in Lambayeque. His loss underscores the perilous conditions faced by personnel during such extreme weather events. Local fishermen expressed deep concern over the economic impact, with many boats damaged or stranded. The Navy has initiated rescue operations, but authorities caution that the adverse conditions, including strong winds and high waves, may persist until at least tomorrow, complicating recovery and relief efforts.
French Prime Minister announced a high-stakes confidence vote for September 8th, seeking parliamentary approval for his €44 billion austerity plan aimed at reducing France's debt. The proposal faces strong opposition from major parties, including the far-right Greens and Socialists, raising concerns over potential political instability.
Prime Minister François Bayrou's decision to call a confidence vote on the 8th of September is a critical move to secure parliamentary backing for his proposed €44 billion austerity package. The plan includes measures such as freezing welfare spending and eliminating public holidays, aiming to reduce France's deficit, which stood at 5.8% of GDP last year. However, the proposal has faced strong opposition from major political parties. The far-right National Rally Greens and Socialists have all indicated they will vote against the government's plan, potentially leading to a loss of the confidence vote. Finance Minister Eric Lombard warned that a government collapse could necessitate intervention from the International Monetary Fund to stabilize the economy. The political uncertainty has already impacted financial markets. The CSE 40 index dropped 2.1%, and shares of major French banks like BNP Paribas and Société Générale saw significant declines. If the government fails, President Emmanuel Macron may appoint a new prime minister, call a snap election, or have Bayrou lead a caretaker administration.
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services confirmed the first human case of travel-associated New World screwworm in the United States. The patient, who had recently traveled from El Salvador or Guatemala, has since recovered. No animal cases have been reported this year.
The U.S. has confirmed the first human case in the United States of travel-associated New World screwworm. It involved a patient who returned from travel to El Salvador, according to U.S. Department of Health and Human Services spokesman, that a case of New World screwworm had been confirmed in a person in Maryland who had traveled from Guatemala. Nixon did not address the discrepancy on the source of the human case. The parasite eats cattle and other warm-blooded animals alive, and an outbreak has escalated and moved northward from Central America and southern Mexico since late last year, but complained that officials at the CDC weren't forthcoming at all about the information. Screwworms are parasitic flies whose females lay eggs in wounds on any warm-blooded animal. Once the eggs hatch, hundreds of screwworm larvae use their sharp mouths to burrow through living flesh, eventually killing their host if left untreated. They rarely infect humans, and treatment is onerous, involving removing hundreds of larvae and thoroughly disinfecting wounds. Screwworms were eradicated from the United States in the 1960s when researchers began releasing sterilized male screwworm flies that mate with wild female screwworms to produce infertile eggs. The USDA has estimated a screwworm outbreak could cost the economy in Texas, the biggest U.S. cattle-producing state, about $1.8 billion in livestock deaths, labor costs, and medication expenses. The U.S. typically imports over 1 million cattle from Mexico a year to fatten in feedlots and process into beef. The Maryland case and lack of transparency around it could also present a political challenge for U.S. Department of Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rowlands, who pledged repeatedly to keep screwworm out of the country. Authorities have set traps and sent mounted officers along the border, but it has faced criticism from some cattle producers and market analysts for not acting sooner and pursuing increased fly production.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. A mother and her 9-year-old son were rescued after being stranded in California's Sierra Nevada. Tammy Laird and Sterling used handwritten notes, fabric strips, and directional rock markers to guide rescuers to their location. The pair spent a night in their vehicle before being found the next day.
It's a trail of mysterious notes. Help, me and my son are stranded. Call 911. Here's another. Please get help for us. There's also this, torn bed sheets tied to branches. Turns out the clues are the work of this mom and her Cub Scout son. Tammy Laird was driving her 9-year-old son Sterling to Cub Scout camp when their GPS took them off-road onto this rugged trail.
It started getting steeper and steeper, rockier and rockier. I knew we were lost at that point.
Tammy cut up a brown bed sheet that she had packed for camp and marked their trail like breadcrumbs. She showed us how she wrote a bunch of notes and secured them to rocks. Being a Cub Scout, young Sterling also sprang into action with his survival training.
If you get stuck somewhere, then you want to blow this, and you blow it 3 times.
That's the signal of a life-threatening emergency and can be heard for miles. They wisely took shelter in their car overnight, deep in California's Sierra Nevada. 24 hours later, a search and rescue team discovers one of the notes. Then they spot mom and son in the distance.
Oh, there's something up there.
Tammy sobs and falls into her rescuer's arms.
It was an amazing feeling.
Only Inside Edition was there when they reunited with the Calaveras County rescue team that saved them.
Hi, good to see you.
Thousands gathered in Lithuania's capital over the weekend to witness the Corgi Race 2025. The event featured over 120 teams from across Europe competing in various contests, including solo sprints, costume challenges, and a mightiest voice competition, culminating in a global Corgi meetup.
And they're off. These corgis are among dozens that gathered, along with their owners, in Vilnius for the annual Corgi Race. This year it was Mango who sped to victory, much to the delight of his owner.
He knows what he did, and he is really proud of himself, so to the next year.
The event also included a fashion show, with a Batman costume and an airplane among some of the elaborate outfits to feature.
We just had this brilliant idea that she could be an aeroplane, because I really love flying and I love corgis.
120 teams from around Europe took part in the event, with thousands of people gathering to watch in the capital's largest park.
It's cherishing the breed of the corgis, and it's just celebrating life in general. So dogs are our best friends, and they have always been, and this is just a testament to that. This event is about the bond between the dogs and their owners.
The event wrapped up with the so-called World Corgi Meetup, where dogs in Vilnius were connected via a live broadcast with their peers in the US, Poland and Ireland.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Selina Jaitilaka, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of colourful Notting Hill Carnival, uniting culture and community. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Anuradha Vikramasinghe will be joining you next with the Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching and have a great night.